Be me straight out of high school. 93 on ASVAB or whatever it's called. Go the sub route, sonar tech. Year and a half of school. Finish in under 10 months. Get stationed in WA. Part of training is listening to a bunch of sounds. Basic stuff, engine noise for every type of boat, sounds of torpedoes, what other subs sound like. Spent days listening to stuff like this. Finally time to go underway. Few months go by and everything is normal. One day on watch. Sitting in front of the computer listening to the ocean. See an extremely strong, very narrow sound start. Start listening in that direction and checking what frequencies it is on. What the fuck is this .png? No sound at all. All sensors are indicating that everyone should be hearing this. Mess with bearing of sensors. Pass a little to the left of it. Holly fuck what is this .gif? Even after all these years I can still hear it clearly. Screaming. The sound of hundreds of voices crying out in agony. Keep listening and watching the screens and seeing my computer give off readings I've never seen before. Snap out of it and try to get the supervisor's attention. Can't even give the proper report. Supervisor quickly listens in and looks at my screen. Ask what could possibly make this. Tectonic plates moving is the answer I get and I'm told to drop it. Listen to the screams for another 30 seconds then all sound stops. Computers show the massive sound's energy disappear. The rest of the deployment hours of without a hitch. Get back to base. Spend hours in the sound lab trying to find anything that sounds like that. Nothing is even remotely close. To this day I still don't know what it was. Hundreds of screaming voices, all sounding like they were in agony. So I guess it's time to drop this one. Been saving it for a while. Mood is right. Thread is spooky. Be my grandfather. World War II Gado-class submarine crewman. Sub is out on patrol east of Japan somewhere. Hunting some smallish Japanese Coast Guard ships. Everyone is deathly silent, so as not to give away position to listening ships. Suddenly everyone hears whispering in Japanese. Obviously nobody could translate. He said it sounded like a young man's voice, but some other voices, women and men, were whispering under the main voice in unison. Suddenly the electricity goes out. Absolutely dark. The whisper rises to a yell, then a scream. Screaming stops, electricity comes back on. Everyone's scared shitless. Then everyone hears a long scraping all the way down the hull, from bow to stern, as if fingernails were trying to rip the metal hull apart. Keep in mind they are probably 200 feet deep at the moment. A week passes. They have sunk 2 small merchant ships and are headed back to refuel and get more torps. He says they all hear quiet singing in Japanese, then something begins tapping on the hull, to the beat of the singing. I showed him the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star song from Dead Space and he says it was almost exactly like that except in Japanese. Some of the crewmen faint. Granddad said he felt extremely nauseous at this point. One of the officers has a heart attack. He says he can't really explain the tension or fright in those moments, but he has never been more scared in his life. He was trapped in a metal box, hundreds of feet below the surface, tormented by Japanese water spirits, his words not mine. Once they were out of Japanese waters, they surfaced for air and let the crew stretch out. On the hull at the base of the conning tower is a line of Japanese characters. Some crewmen copy it on paper and translate it. Translate it into black water, black ship, black souls, black curse. Says there were 4 parallel scratches along the starboard side, bow to stern. Not exactly security, but I work in shipping. This happened 5 years ago, but it boggles my mind to this day. Be me. Have watch on bridge together with one AB. Very young man, but responsible and competent. Nothing happens. Boring shit you always get in the Biscay Bay. Everything's well. AB tells me he sees another ship. Look up from console and onto radar, check AIS and comms. Nothing. I assume it could be a small pleasure craft. Strange, but not entirely unlikely. Take binoculars and ask him to show me. Both of us look where he spotted the ship for a few minutes, but find nothing. Tell him his mind probably connected some shapes and it's nothing. 10 minutes later he sees it again. Get kinda rude but check anyway. Nothing. Assume he is just overenthusiastic. Ask him to describe the ship. He describes a huge ship with a tall superstructure and actual turrets. Ask him if he consumed alcohol or other drugs, because battleships are not used anymore, and he's an idiot. Hear his ship's horn. Run to comms because I thought I fucked up and there is a ship nearby. Nothing on any system. AB tells me to look port side. A fucking battleship goes past us without even disturbing the water. Maybe 50 meters away from us. Ask chief engineer to come up and look right. He sees it too. My face when he only tells us to not look at it directly. He is very much alive and employed, but I don't know on what vessel or his contact, since the crewing agency doesn't tell us because EU data protection nonsense. However, we obviously asked him afterwards what the fuck we saw and why we shouldn't look at it. He only responded very defensively, and didn't really tell us anything of any substance except that it's not an uncommon sight, and that these ghost ships would bring bad luck if you looked at them too long. But otherwise are supposedly harmless. On other occasions before we saw the ship, he also told of more ridiculous shit, which nobody really believed. But after what happened I am more inclined to believe him. The things he also talked about and take that with a grain of salt because I think he was also just messing with the Never guys, include weird stuff like sirens/mermaids in the med, lights mimicking lighthouses. And that sounds terrifying as fuck, and more reasonable things like St. Elmo's fire and Milky Water, which is just physics/biology at work. I also have some more stories of strange things myself, but they aren't really scary, just strange. On a side note, for a time I was also considering that we saw a real ship adrift and abandoned. However, these don't move swiftly and straight like they are propelled by engines and obviously give off radar signatures and are affected by waves/affect them. Furthermore, they don't sound horns.